Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or depending on what time you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. So in the not too distant past, AMC made an announcement regarding their pre-show ads. So basically what they said is they're going to be adding some extra time to their commercials before the movie starts. Now, as somebody that has not gone to AMC that frequently, I usually go maybe once a year at this point. However, I used to be someone that went to the AMC a lot, more when I was living in California, because the AMCs were more convenient out there. Plus, the ones I went to I really love, especially the one in Burbank. But since I've been back in Buffalo for the last 5 years, going to an AMC just isn't as convenient anymore. There's 2 AMCs here in Buffalo, and the 2 of them aren't exactly close to where I live. However, the theaters that I do go to now most frequently are Regal Cinemas. Now, with Regal, I've noticed how their pre-shows changed not that long ago. And I'll be honest, it's completely annoying. So let's say, for example, I'm going to a movie that has a 7 p.m. showtime. Now, about 5 years ago, what would normally happen? At 7 o'clock on the dot, those trailers would play. Now, what ends up happening is that right at 7 o'clock, more commercials. And with Regal, I would say there's about a good 8 to 10 minutes worth of commercials after the showtime, which basically means that the trailers aren't starting until about 8 to 10 minutes after your showtime. Tack on another, let's say 15 to 20 minutes for those trailers. Now we're looking at 25 to 30 minutes after your showtime of when the actual movie is starting. So it seemed like people were more up in arms when AMC made that announcement. But the thing is, Regal's already been doing this. I myself have not heard that much criticism, so maybe it's just because AMC is like the biggest theater chain here in the United States. Although Regal's pretty close. It just seems like what AMC's already doing and people are upset, it's already happening. But I decided that I was going to try it out. Because I am an A24 member, I get a free ticket every time a new movie comes out, and I did go end up and seeing the new Ari Aster movie, Eddington. Now, if you want a quick review, I'll go ahead and give that at the end, so make sure to stick around and I'll give my little review of Eddington. But because I got the free ticket, I was like, you know what? I'll go see this in an AMC. Now, it actually wasn't playing in the one AMC theater that I usually go to. It was playing in the other one, which is in downtown Buffalo, which actually is the theater that when I went to the Back to the Future, the musical at Shays a couple weeks back, that was the theater that was right across the street. So I was like, you know what? All right, I've never been to this theater before. Let's check it out and see what this theater's like. Because, you know, I really do like AMC theaters, especially the newer ones. You know, they have the updated seats and they have the bars, the MacGuffin. But when I got to this one, it was pretty basic. There wasn't anything too special about it, and I would say probably the worst part about this theater is going to be the location, because there's not really a lot of places to park for free, and I can see why people maybe wouldn't go to this movie theater that often unless you lived in the area. But anyways, I went to a 12:25 p.m. screening of Eddington. Now, first off, I was the only person in the theater for the whole show. That was nice. I got in at around 12 noon. Nothing on the screen. Okay, about 15 minutes later, on the dot, 12:15, is when the theater came to life and they started playing commercials. So I said, all right, let's see how long these commercials play for, and my guess was going to be about 20 minutes, because I was figuring 10 minutes before the showtime and then probably 10 minutes after the showtime. And to my surprise, there actually was not 10 minutes of commercials after the showtime started. So the showtime comes around, 12:25, and we got probably about 5 minutes worth of commercials. I'm not speaking for every AMC out there. It could be different depending on the AMC theater. I would think they'd still be the same as far as the logistics, but for the AMC theater that I went to, there was only 5 minutes of commercials after the showtime started. Then it got to about 12:30, and then we got into a pretty long AMC ad for going back to the movies. Not the Nicole Kidman one, this was a different one, but we got a pretty extended 2-minute ad for AMC theaters. And then the trailer started about 12:32. So 7 minutes after my showtime is when the trailer started. Now, here's something also interesting that happened that also happens at Regal. So we got about, I'd say, 5 trailers in, probably got to 12:45, and then something interesting happened. Now, at first, I thought the movie was about to start because it kind of went dark and something different seemed like it was coming on, but that wasn't the case. What ended up happening is a commercial for Applebee's came on.
She's craving something new.
When going to the movies, and you're sitting there and those trailers start, to me, it's always when the trailers start, that's when the experience starts. So to have a commercial midway through the trailers, it's so jarring. I've seen it before, but it still throws me for a loop every single time. And then that ends. We had about another, I think, 2 more trailers. Also, there's 4 Red Band trailers in a row, which I've never seen that many red band trailers before a movie. But there were about 2 more trailers that came on. I think the last one was The Smashing Machine, which is an A24 movie coming out. And a typical rule of thumb is whatever movie you're going to see, the last trailer will be from that same studio. So when I saw The Smashing Machine, that's A24, I was like, this is probably the last trailer, and it was. And then we got a couple more AMC ads, one of those being Nicole Kidman herself. They are still rocking that ad 4 or 5 years later. And finally, the movie starts. It starts at exactly 12:52. So the showtime was 12:25. The movie starts at 12:52. Just doing some basic math, 27 minutes. Now keep in mind, AMC does put it on their website when you go get the ticket. It will say something like, movie starts 25 to 30 minutes after showtime. For my experience, it was right in that middle, pretty much as close to the middle as you can get. So basically it took 27 minutes from my showtime to when the actual movie started. And I gotta say, I am used to this just because of Regal. Regal, that's pretty standard. Like, I'm usually expecting about 25 to 30 minutes after that showtime. If you want a good alternative, which isn't just showing up 30 minutes late and hoping for the best, because sometimes that doesn't always work out. If you go to a local cinema, like some of your smaller cinemas in your town that are maybe locally owned, they tend to show less trailers and less commercials. When I went and saw Lilo and Stitch, that was at the East Aurora Theater, they only showed 3 trailers and then the movie started. To me, that was perfect. But with these big corporate movie theater chains, I don't see this going away anytime soon. So that was my experience with the pre-show ads. Now, a quick review of the movie itself, Eddington. Written and directed by Ari Aster, the new A24 movie. But here's my review. I think this is Ari Aster's worst movie, but I think it's probably the best COVID-themed movie we may ever get. It did seem like he was trying to make 2 different types of Coen Brothers movie in one movie. It went from like a political movie to kind of like a crime drama, all kind of centered around the vibe of like a Coen Brothers movie. It's definitely long, which is crazy because like it's still half an hour shorter than Beau is Afraid, which was a movie that was a half an hour too long. If you know Ari Aster's movies and you like Ari Aster, Hereditary, Midsommar, or Beau is Afraid, they have this just certain kind of zaniness in them. This one just seemed like it was lacking it, at least in the beginning. It does get a little bit more crazy as the movie goes along. But yeah, I would say this is probably his worst movie so far. Anyways, that was my experience going to an AMC theater in July of 2025, dealing with pre-show ads and all that stuff. I want to thank everybody for coming along, hanging out. Let me know. Do you go to AMC theaters now? Do you stop going to AMC theaters because there's just way too many damn pre-show ads and commercials? Did you happen to get thrown off by an Applebee's commercial that played halfway through the trailers?
Like the new chicken parmesan fettuccine.
Let's just hope that 25 to 30 minutes after that showtime stays that way, at least for a while. All right.
See you, chump.
And they're already promoting the Odyssey. I tried to get tickets for 70mm, but fortunately they were completely sold out.